What's up, friends? How's it going? This week's video is going to be a little bit different. I had some people recently ask me about my own gear, and it got me thinking, and I was talking to my buddy Jason about this recently, and the question was, why do we keep buying pedals? Why do we keep buying gear, right? So I've had some time to think about it, and I've had initial reactions to that thought as well, but before I go there, I'm just going to kind of give you the lay of the land of stuff that I have purchased over the past few years, and maybe it'll kind of shed some light on stuff that you might like to try out, because ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't want to do one of those videos where I have the caption and you don't get the answer till the end. So my immediate answer to why do we keep buying gear, why do we keep buying amps, why do we keep buying pedals, all that stuff, guitars, is that it's fun. It's inspiring. It is a way for us as musicians to continually want to pick up the instrument and continually work on it. So the more you learn about the guitar, the more you learn about the drum set or the keys or whatever it is that you play, the more fun it is to do so, right? That's the ultimate goal. So why did you get into it in the first place? When you first started playing guitar, you asked your parents if you could get one, or an aunt or an uncle had one laying around, you played it and you were like, oh, this is fun. What is it that got you into doing it in the first place? There's an immediate attraction for some musicians to gravitate towards specific instruments depending on what hits you, when you listen to music. For me, it was guitar. And then from there, I got into wanting to learn how to play the drum set. I wanted to learn how to play piano. I wanted to learn how to play bass properly. So all these things kind of spawned from the initial need or desire to play the guitar. So as far back as I can remember, and I've talked about this on my show at Home with Mark with some of my guests, but my first pedal was the Boss Super Chorus, because Kurt Cobain used a chorus pedal. I was into that thing and how he sounded, and that's kind of how it started. I was like, oh, well, he uses that, so that means it's cool. So that's basically how I got into guitar pedals. That was my first entry. It wasn't an overdrive pedal. I didn't even get a tube screamer until I was probably 20 years old, 21 years old. Before that, I was just using the overdrive on the amp. So if it was a 2-channel amp, I was just using that as my overdrive sound. I didn't know about, in the late 90s, there wasn't really a huge boutique pedal market. So, I didn't really know about things that could have enhanced my sound at that time. So it's been a constant chase for tone. Anyway, I don't want to talk too long, but let me go over some things here. I'm going to open this drawer. I have one drawer that's just all fuzzes and overdrive. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, this was the tube screamer that I bought. I think it might have been like 1999 maybe when I bought this TS9. And what I specifically remember about it is I bought it, I drove back to college, my bass player at the time, my buddy Jeff, we lived together, and I plugged it in, and I remember him saying, oh, that sounds great. And then I was like, yeah, but I don't know if I need this, because this is the idiocracy that I lived inside my head. I don't need this because, see, it says tube screamer. The amp I have has tubes in it. Do I really need this? Because can't the tubes do this job? Which I guess they could have. I had a PV Classic 50 at the time, which I loved that amp. It was great. But this thing was my first overdrive pedal. After that, a bunch of stuff came in and out of my life, but the next overdrive pedal that really made me start to understand what was going on in the boutique market was this guy. This is the Barber Electronics Burn Unit. When I say this is a prototype, this is one of the first ones that he made. It is truly an interesting story. So this company was based in Maryland. I was recording music in a studio in Baltimore, and the guy had one of these. He had a prototype like this. And he was like, oh, do you want to check this out? So I played through it and actually ended up using it on, I think we were recording a single at that place. We weren't doing a whole record, but I ended up using it and I loved it because it reminded me a lot of the sounds that my favorite guitar player at the time, Chuck Garvey from the band Mo, had going on. And he was using a Klon. I didn't know about that at the time, but he was using a Klon, I think, and he was using a Tube Screamer, I believe. But this thing got that sound. And Jeff, the guy I mentioned before, I think it was Jeff, we got in the car, and I thought it was a store, a storefront that was selling these. So we just drove sight unseen to this place. This is before cell phones, really, before cell phones. We drove to this place, and it was a house. And I was like, this can't be right. And we knocked on the door. The guy opened up, was like, can I help you? And I was like, I'm trying to find Barber Electronics about purchasing a pedal. And he was like, oh, well, that is me. I build them here. So he took us in his basement, and he had a couple of these laying around, a couple of the prototypes that he was working on. And he sold me one. And this was my first big deal. But fast forward a bunch of years, I started getting into more overdrive and everything. But in the past couple years is I think the past 5 years is when I really started kind of dipping my toes in a bunch of different waters for overdrives and fuzzes. The first fuzz that I really wanted to get was one that I saw Doyle Bramhall using, right? So I bought this guy. I found it on Reverb, popped up used. I was checking every day. I literally was checking every day to see if any of these would pop up used on Reverb. One did. It was a good price. I bought it. Super pumped. If you guys don't know about the Burkos Effects Third Stone, get you some knowledge on this. It's really great. Doyle uses it, and that's good enough for me. The other thing that I bought used on Reverb was Vemurum Janray, which I did a video of this on my channel. I should do one specifically for this too. I don't think I have. I don't think so. Anyway, that one's great. This was another kind of aha moment too when I bought this. Fun stories. Fun stories all around, right? It's just like adventures. That's why we keep buying pedals. Fast forward a little bit more is when I found out about basically, well, I had a Klon. I should go back to like 2002, right when I was graduating college and our band was starting to tour more. I ordered a Klon Centaur, which took about 8 months or so to get done. I've since sold that, and I bought a guitar with the money I earned from that. But I started to think about other pedals that were the Klon clone. And Mythos came into my life via, the rest of the world with people like Ariel and Joey playing this stuff. So I started checking these out. Love it. So I have this one from Mythos. I have the High Road, which is Joey's signature fuzz, which is killing. And then the Argo, which has been, it's like that Cobb thing in spades, man. Like that whole octave fuzz. It gets gnarly. I used it on my record, and I think I played slide with it, which sounded so ridiculously good. Anyway, and then continue on. Jesse came into my life. Jesse Davey from Kingtone. He's going to be on the show this coming week after this video posts, Wednesday night. So Jesse, I have these, and I have the 1968 Vibe, which if you don't know anything about Jesse's pedals and you are into like any like the Stevie Ray sound and that tone, this side is a Tube Screamer, and this side is more of a Blues Breaker circuit. And there we go for that. And oh, this is a cool one. So this is, I've yet to be able to find, I even reached out to G.A.S, to Josh Smith, to see if he had any like knowledge about Ferro electronics and this Class A boost. I had this on my board for a really long time. It pushes the front end of an amp really beautifully and gets it like buttery and compressed. This thing's cool. I got this for free. There was this cat, I can't remember his name. I think his name might have been Mark. He was a friend of my buddy's, and he was just getting rid of all of his pedals. And he was just like, do you want this, man? I don't ever use it, and I'm not going to get any money for it. So, it's yours if you want it. I'm like, sure, I'll try it out. Free pedals are cool pedals, right? Another great story. It's deeper than that, but that's another great story. And then, as we fast forward even more, Sorry, I'm a little off camera here. But you guys know this came into my life. The Cornerstone Gladio. This is one of the best overdrive pedals I think I've ever played through. To the point where it's made me think maybe I don't need all these overdrive pedals. You know, it's not super necessary. But that pedal is dope. I just did, you guys just saw on my channel, I just did reviews of the Gladio SC, which is the single channel, left side of that. This is also fantastic from Cornerstone, the antique, that classic tone, that like live John Mayer tone that you guys know and love. This is fantastic. And there's a plethora more. I mean, I bought this like this past year in 2020, and I love Ariel's tone. It's just so good. Being that I play in C standard tuning and open C, I had to try it because like that's his sound in a box, right? So that's fantastic. And the you know, who else am I leaving out? The Vertex Dynamic Distortion, that was one I bought 3 years ago, whatever. That kind of was blowing my mind because of how versatile it is in terms of going from the TS circuit to like a fuzz circuit, which is pretty rad. And then what else do we buy? Oh, well, we buy, like I said, we buy modulation pedals, right? Too, because why not? I don't know, it's just, there's so many things. I mean, I can just keep going and going, pulling stuff out of drawers. But anyway, you guys get the point. You can see, I'm having fun talking about it because there's really good stories attached to it, and there are like palpable moments that I can remember first plugging into some of this stuff. So all this to say is, why do we buy pedals? Why do we keep doing it? Why do we keep second guessing if the ones that we're using are the right ones for us? Because we're having fun. You know, at the end of the day, this stuff, these are all tools. You know, we have to get in the shed and work on our guitar skills if we want to be better guitar players. These are not going to make us better guitar players. What they are going to do is inspire us to become better guitar players. Because you're going to want to plug in. You're going to want to be sitting in front of an amp, listening to that tone come back at you, and it's going to make you play differently. Every single pedal you plug into is going to make you approach the instrument differently. Every single song that you're recording, every single, you know, lick that you put down is going to be different from pedal to pedal because they're all different characteristics. So for me, at least, I feel like this is the like main reason why I keep hunting and searching, because I want to find something that's going to push me to do something different. Something that'll be, you know, a moment in my life that I can look back on and I can say, oh man, that growth period that I had in slide when I was learning slide, you know, a large portion of that could be, you know, due to hearing the tone that this thing gave me when I played slide with it. You know, if I was trying to go for that sweet, you know, Derek Trucks tone or whatever it may be, like whatever I'm using, it helped me get off the plateau and get to that next step on the staircase. And that is something that we should all consider. You know, it really is. There should be no guilt in wanting to acquire pedals. And I think there's a stigma maybe around like, these aren't going to make you better and why you keep buying stuff, like you should be practicing. And I get that. I totally 100% get that. And there might be a lot of you who are like, yeah, that's true. Why are you buying all these pedals? For me, and that's valid. I just think it's just plain old fun, you know. And a lot of this stuff, you know, I've had way more pedals. I've had to sell a ton of stuff to get some of these. There have been pedals that, there might have been 2 pedals that I had to sell just to get this guy. But this has not left, and I've had this for years now. So, and it's number 317. That's kind of neat, right? I don't know, 317, that's a lot. A lot sold, but you know, it's cool. It's a piece of that company's history too. When you're buying this stuff and you're purchasing amps and pedals, you're not only buying a piece of gear, but you're becoming a part of that fabric of that company and the story of that company, which is really cool. I think this is going to be controversial. I don't even know if I should say this, but like this thing alone in the Gladio SC, you know, could end up going down as like pretty pivotal pieces of gear and gear history. I don't know if it'll get to Klon lore, but it could. It really could. So you should check those out. And I will also say that the Chase Bliss Automaton is another one of those that is a fast forward into the future of what guitar gear can be. And, you know, I don't take that for granted. The fact that I was able to purchase that, and I had to sell a couple things to get that too. But I'm glad I did, because it's one of the most fantastic overdrive fuzz pedals I think I've ever played through. And you know what, I can probably say the same thing about all of these. You know, it's because they're all inspiring in different ways. But anyway, I'm going to cut this video off because I can ramble way too much. You guys don't need to hear that, but what do you think? You know, tell me in the comments below. Like, why do you think you keep buying gear? What's the reason that you are surfing the web looking for the next cool thing to inspire you? Tell me below. And we'll see you soon on the channel for the next At Home with Mark and the next videos. Again, appreciate your support as always. Ring that bell if you want updates on when I'm putting new stuff out. Ring that sucker, and tell your friends. This is growing, and we're building a really great community. You guys are fantastic. It's the most positive community I could have hoped to have fallen into, being a YouTuber. Is that what it is? Anyway, take care of each other, take care of yourself. I will see you soon. See ya.